Eric Kandel, In Search of Memory, The Emergence of a New Science of Mind. Embark on a captivating journey through the realm of memory as we explore the essence of Marcel Proust's In Search of Memory, The Emergence of a New Science of Mind. The book provides readers an opportunity to dive deep into the mind and memory by uncovering the author's ideas on deliberate and involuntary memory, along with his take on the futile nature of human relationships. Set in the Belle Époque era in France, Proust unfolds poignant tales that depict the love stories, social situations, and artistic visions of characters who reflect some aspects of himself and his contemporaries. Immerse yourself in this profound narrative that's rich with artistic and intellectual insights, as well as the wonders of memory and past experiences that shape our present reality.
Proust's childhood memories and Tartlet's magic. Marcel Proust takes us on a nostalgic journey to his childhood memories in the family's country home in Cambrai, France. As he indulges in a madeleine cake dipped in tea, vivid recollections of his mother's bedtime kiss, vibrant garden flowers, the scent of hawthorn hedges, and water lilies on the rivulet Vivonne flood his mind. One summer, he falls in love with Gilberte Swann, the daughter of his family's friend, through a pink hawthorn hedge. Meanwhile, the love story of Gilberte's parents, Odette and Charles Swann, unfolds before his time in Paris. Swann, a refined art connoisseur, falls head over heels in love with Odette, a second-rate actress and courtesan after hearing a sonata by the composer Vinteuil at Madame Vergerin's salon. However, Swann's intense desire for Odette turns her colder and crueler towards him, fueling his fits of jealousy. The prolonged absence of Odette is the only cure for his lovesick heart. Proust's vivid recollections and the magic of the Tartlet take us on an unforgettable journey through time. A journey through forbidden love. Marcel falls in love with Gilberte but faces disapproval from her father. Later, he travels to Baalbec, where he befriends young aristocrat Robert and meets glamorous Baron de Charles, and falls in love with the dark-haired Albertine but faces rejection when he attempts to kiss her. Marcel's journey through love and social hierarchies is one filled with trials and tribulations. His initial love for Gilberte is met with disapproval from her father, causing Marcel to fall gravely ill. He finally feels welcomed in her family after his friend invites him for tea. However, Gilberte proves to be egotistical and moody, eventually leading Marcel to decide to end their relationship to save the mental ideal of his love. Marcel's journey takes him to Baalbec, where he befriends young aristocrat Robert and meets the glamorous Baron de Charles. He finally gains access to the elusive class, but his attention is drawn to the haughty, cold, and sleek bourgeoisie daughters of wealthy businessmen. In the end, Marcel falls in love with dark-haired Albertine, but when he attempts to kiss her, she is outraged and rejects him. Marcel's journey is a reflection of the social dynamics of the time, where love was intertwined with social hierarchy, and forbidden love faced rejection. Marcel's disillusionment. Marcel, the protagonist, falls in love with the Duchess de Guermantes after moving into a new apartment next to her residence. In his desperate attempt to win her over, he reaches out to her nephew, Saint Loup, but to no avail. Marcel attends a reception at Madame de Villeparis's salon, where discussions about Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer accused of high treason, unravel. Most attendees, including Marcel's Jewish friend Bloch, are anti-Semitic. Marcel's grandmother suffers a stroke and dies after a long, agonizing decline. Later, when Albertine visits him, Marcel shows no interest in her. However, the Duchess invites him to her salon when he loses interest in her. But Marcel finds the experience underwhelming, and the highborn chatter reinforces his sense of disillusionment. Realizations of homosexuality and anti-Semitism. Marcel's observations lead to a newfound understanding of homosexuality and anti-Semitism. He witnesses the Baron de Charles hitting on the tailor, Jupian, and realizes that they are gay. At the home of the Prince de Guermantes, Marcel feels surrounded by anti-Semitism, spite, and boredom. Marcel's realization of homosexuality extends to most people, including Albertine. He becomes rough and rude to Albertine until she mentions her friendship with two lesbians, prompting him to liberate her of the presumed vice. They head to Paris as Marcel continues to navigate his realizations about himself and those around him. Marcel's turbulent relationship with Albertine. Marcel's jealousy puts his relationship with Albertine in jeopardy as she becomes entangled in a web of lies. Marcel has been struggling to produce any substantial writing for years, much to the frustration of his parents. He moves in with his family and Albertine, restricting her from leaving the house without André. Though he finds solace in her sleeping beside him, his jealousy plagues him as Albertine becomes increasingly enmeshed in a web of lies. Marcel forbids Albertine from attending a musical evening with the Vergerins, causing him to attend in her place. At the event, he learns that the composer Vinteuil's lesbian daughter and her lover had not arrived as expected. In a fit of rage, Marcel accuses Albertine of being in a relationship with the daughter, leading to their separation. Ultimately, Marcel decides to amicably travel to Venice alone, but when he wakes up, he discovers that Albertine has already left with her bags packed. Marcel's insecurities and distrust ultimately lead to his downfall in his relationship with Albertine. Marcel's heartbreak and moving on. Marcel's efforts to win back Albertine fail when news of her death reaches him. He seeks solace in André, who reveals her past relationship with Albertine. As Marcel tries to forget his past, he realizes his youthful convictions no longer hold true. Marcel's quest to win back Albertine comes to a tragic end when he learns of her death in a riding accident. His grief is compounded by jealous suspicions that resurface when he learns about Albertine's alleged sexual escapades. As he tries to uncover the truth, Marcel's friend reveals that Albertine had a lesbian relationship with another woman, but not with the intention of leaving Marcel. Marcel then travels to Venice with his mother, where he finds himself entranced by the city's beauty and its women, leading him to forget about Albertine. However, upon his return to Paris, he realizes that his youthful convictions no longer hold true. He learns that Saint Lou marries for money and is a closet homosexual, and Gilbert confesses that she fell in love with Marcel from the beginning. Marcel's heartbreak over Albertine's death ultimately leads him to move on from his past and embrace a new future. Remembrance and Construction. Marcel's return to Paris after the war and his realization of the power of sensory memory in creating literary art. Marcel returns to Paris after several years in a sanatorium during World War I. He finds that everything has changed beyond recognition since he left. Madame Vergerin, once despised in society, now runs the most luxurious salon in Paris. Marcel's friend, Saint Lou, has died in combat, and Gilbert is struggling to hold on to their childhood memories, which have been destroyed by the war. One night, out of curiosity, Marcel enters a popular hotel during a blackout. To his horror, he sees the Baron de Charlis, violently tortured and covered in blood. Marcel realizes that the symbols of the present and the past merge in his mind and allow him to see the truth. After some years, Marcel returns to Paris at the brink of death and attends a party where he feels like he's at a grotesque masquerade ball. Marcel realizes that his acquaintances have aged beyond recognition, and nothing is the same as it was before the war. Marcel understands that he has only one goal now, and that is to give the people he remembers in his writing their place in time. In conclusion, Marcel realizes the power of sensory memory and how it helps in writing. Marcel understands that he needs to decipher the symbols deep within himself and show the connection between them to make them accessible to others through his unique style. Proust's masterpiece. Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time is a work of literary genius. The 7 volumes of the novel depict a symphony, with the first volume serving as an overture to central themes. The narrator recalls his childhood, introduces the motif of involuntary memory triggered by sensory cues, and mirrors themes and motifs throughout the work in different situations and life stories. Proust's vivid descriptions of landscapes and beach scenes reflect the works of impressionistic masters Boudin, Manet, and Monet, while portraits of characters and society in the closing scene are reminiscent of Cubist and Futurist artists. Proust's excessive, nested, and breathless phrases were a reflection of his asthmatic condition. His contemporaries believed that he wrote exactly as he spoke, producing some of the longest sentences in French literature. The final volume culminates in a furious finale at the Old People's Ball, where the characters perform their last dance. In Search of Lost Time is truly a masterpiece. In Search of Lost Time. Marcel, the protagonist of In Search of Lost Time, struggles with the concept of memory as impressions of past events interweave with the present. Proust examines the dichotomy between conscious and unconscious remembrance, where involuntary memories are triggered unexpectedly and often more powerfully. The novel explores the complexities of human relationships, with the impossibility of objective thought leading to the fragmentation of the self and the ultimate failure of meaningful connections. Proust also delves into his own experiences of homosexuality and Jewish identity through his characters and their relationships. In his play Between Fiction and Autobiography, Proust highlights his aesthetic philosophy, which championed metaphors and style over realism or politics. Infused with both nostalgia and irony, In Search of Lost Time provides a rich commentary on the end of the Belle Époque, critiquing the rigid class structures and the decline of the aristocracy before World War I. France's cultural metamorphosis. In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust exemplifies the cultural changes that occurred in Belle Époque France between 1890 and 1914. France underwent a cultural transformation, where advancements in science and technology brought forth more freedoms, and existing value systems were challenged. The rising upper middle classes benefited from the technological revolution, and Paris became a hub for celebrating life, beauty, and oneself. The artistic movements of the era were fueled by a mood that cycled between excessive euphoria about the future and doomsday desperation, also known as the fin de siècle. Rebellion against societal conventions ushered in a frivolous lifestyle, excessive drug abuse, and a more open embrace of sexuality. Marcel Proust chronicled this epoch and is also regarded as a trailblazer of modern literature. The book is therefore an exemplar of the metamorphosis that France went through in that time. The writing process behind Proust's magnum opus. In Search of Lost Time was not a book that Proust wrote quickly. It took over a decade, from 1909 to 1922, to complete. Originally planned as a two-volume work, Proust's sprawling novel was put on hold by World War I. Proust's personal life also influenced the novel, as the death of his secretary led to the creation of an entirely new narrative. The drafts underwent numerous changes, with Proust cutting and pasting passages from one place to another. The final clean copy that emerged between 1917 and 1918 was not quite final, as Proust continued to write until his death. The inconsistencies and repetitions in the novel are a testament to Proust's creative method. This article sheds light on the writing process behind Proust's masterpiece, In Search of Lost Time, providing insights into the challenges he faced and the inspiration that drove his work. Proust's ongoing literary legacy. A century after gaining notoriety with his complex novel, In Search of Lost Time, Marcel Proust's legacy as a literary icon continues to thrive. Despite initial criticism accusing his work of being irrelevant, socially ephemeral, and immoral, his masterpiece has since been revered as the most essential literary creation of the 20th century. Proust's work has transcended time and inspired various adaptations, including films, TV shows, and graphic novels. In 1997, Alain de Botton even published a self-help book titled How Proust Can Change Your Life. Proust's novel was famously satirized in the Monty Python sketch, however, it remains a significant element of pop culture. More than a century later, Proust continues to be an influential figure in the world of literature and beyond.
In the end, In Search of Memory leaves us not only with a richer understanding of the human mind and its incredible intricacies, but also encourages us to reflect on the impacts of memory on our lives. The book's main character, Marcel, discovers his true calling in deciphering the symbols hidden within his past episodes, finding connections between events, and making them accessible to others through his writing. As we journey with him through diverse landscapes of human experience, the book compels us to examine our own memories and the role they play in shaping our identity. Furthermore, it provides commentary on issues such as love, art, homosexuality, and the tensions between aristocracy and the rising bourgeoisie. As a literary masterpiece infused with witty observations and profound questions, In Search of Memory stands as an enduring classic that continues to captivate generations of readers.